Corn announces winter sale in collaboration with Added. What's up guys, welcome back to Penbrook's Own, and this is going to be a bit of a different video. I sort of ran out of time to write a script this week, but something big has happened in my writing life. For all of you who may not have seen, I have just finished writing the first draft of my third book, Insidious Valour, and this is a bit of a celebration video, so you are going to see me imbibe in some alcohol, although I do have to keep the actual brand off screen because I'm not quite sure about YouTube and all of their licensing and all that kind of stuff yet. So I have a certain Danish lager in my Walking Dead mug. Now this was going to appear on my Writing Things playlist because I was going to be talking about character development, because I have made some serious updates to my characters and given them such stronger arcs in the third book. But I felt like it's just better for me to compare what I've written to other characters out there who have inspired my writing journey and how my characters have got from where they are to where they are now. I've already babbled, I'm already drunk, I don't care, let's get drunk, let's celebrate. Now we'll be diving into my first two books, The Taste Beneath and Diseased Intentions, just so you can get a bit of an understanding of where the character was then and where they are and how far I've gotten them to come in now, because I know a lot of you who have read the books have been waiting for this moment to come so far. Now we'll be dipping into spoilers of the first two books as well, so if you haven't read them so far, both The Taste Beneath, Diseased Intentions are on sale now on Amazon. For some reason, Diseased Intentions is only £1.90. I didn't set that price, so thank you very much for that, Amazon. Or if you want to buy them for a friend for Christmas, or a family who maybe enjoys reading, likes a bit of suspense thriller set in a post-war environment, and if you are local to me and you know me personally, it does involve some of the towns that we grew up in and some of the places that we used to visit. But enough of that. Let's get straight into Insidious Valour, and yes, I finished it. I finished it last night. It's currently Sunday, and I finished it last night, well, technically this morning at about 12:30. I can't actually remember. I wasn't drunk then, but I am now, so deal with it. And in terms for this video as well, I normally have Monday, Tuesday off, so I normally record the footage on Monday, then edit it on Tuesday and upload it then. But because I'm working Monday and Tuesday all day, I have to try and get this recorded in tonight, then edit it tomorrow between my two shifts, and then try and upload it Tuesday evening. Oh, this tastes so good. So, Insidious Valour, what can you expect? Blood Ryan is coming. Now those of you who have read The Taste Beneath and Diseased Intentions seem to have a serious connection with my main character Ryan, and I know a lot of you in the Taste Beneath specifically liked it when he took situations into his own hands and just dealt out personal punishment and judgment. My intention was to never make him judge, jury and executioner, but there were some scenes, particularly when he kills Ben. It's quite a brutal scene because he kills the two other men that are with him with two clear shots to the head, but he intentionally wounds Ben so he can drag him back to the table. And that's the moment where I first described Ryan going into his haze, where the darkness of his eyes just sort of, his peripherals cave in. It's kind of like a tunnel vision. I've had it a couple of times in myself, but the people that I've disposed of still haven't been found yet, so let's keep that under wraps. And talking about character development as well, because not long after that Ryan had to make a harsh decision which ended up with innocents of people getting killed. Not accidentally, he knew it was going to happen, but he was put on the spot to make a choice between his people or their people. And that was something that haunted him for a while, but he still had that edge to him where he was sort of kind of a loose cannon and didn't really take things in, thinking of the consequences. And that comes to fruition at the end of The Taste Beneath, where he's been held hostage and he has the choice to either he gets killed or his two friends get killed. And he's easily provoked. I've never mentioned this, but Connor never wanted to kill Ryan. He was going to keep on talking it until Ryan lost his shit, because he knew Ryan would. He knew Ryan was quite impulsive. And that decision, that outburst from Ryan does inevitably end up with Doc and Sam getting killed. And yeah, it haunts him for a while, and that sort of put him on the back foot for a while. In Diseased Intentions itself, when in the second book, you can see that anger is still there inside him, the willingness to protect his people, especially when it comes to not trusting Harper, Woodburn, and all of these other different situations that are thrown at him. And as much as he does get into the action, particularly when he gets lost in the maze with the termites, there is that element to him, but he's not on edge anymore. He's still kind of holding back, and he does get wounded even though he is fighting for his life. But you wonder whether or not he's learned his lesson, or whether he is willing to kill out of rage again. And at the end of Diseased Intentions, when he has the chance to execute the person who kills his nephew Lyndon, he makes a smart choice. It was a choice that I played with for a bit, because making Admiral think that Ryan had just killed his daughter over a live connection feed, Ryan wanted to cause that pain back, but he knew that when the war comes, that Hannah would be a severe bargaining chip. Maybe not for peace, but at least for a truce for them to gather their senses, as you will. I don't even know if that's made sense. I need some more beer. Essentially, he picks the smart decision, not the rage decision. And that was, over the course of the 2 books, my character development with Ryan. He's grown in other ways, but learning to control that part of himself and make wiser decisions, it was smarter for him, because I could have just gone down. I didn't want to go down the whole, he's just a complete badass for the sake of being a badass route. That's not anything against modern cinema or writing either. That's just not what I wanted to do with Ryan. But in Insidious Valour, he now has the chance to, or I've had the chance to explore that with him more, particularly with a lot of the other backstories that's going on that fuels Ryan. Because there's a lot of loneliness in Insidious Valour in the terms of the way that I've broken it up. The vineyard, that was just its own stable economy, or I don't even know if that's the right word, its own stable commune, that is the right word, in The Taste Beneath, to Diseased Intentions, where it's chance for them to open up the world again, and for Maidville and Penbrook Vineyard to be a big part of that, to Insidious Valour, where there is complete silence. I can't go into the details of why. But there has been a cut-off of communication, and it's left Ryan in the dark again. And now that he hasn't got Mikey anymore, Mikey was sort of one of his last lingering threads. In The Taste Beneath, Ryan was always the fourth figure, or front figure, out of the main 3, Doc and Mikey, even though the 3 of them were joint leaders. But Mikey was sort of Ryan's moral side, whereas Doc was the cold but sort of logical side, and it helped balance Ryan out. Losing Doc shook Ryan up enough for him to realise he needs to control his emotions, but now he doesn't have Mikey there either, and there's a lack of communication, specifically when they know that there is a chance for them to go after Admiral, not Ryan. There is a military effort to go after Admiral in Liberia, to just finally bring peace, but because he's left in the dark about it, it builds up on that paranoia, and he's just left with his own thoughts about everything that's happened. And especially with what happens in part 2, when Ryan isn't in this part at all. I switched the setting or scenery completely to Harper and Rook for this mission that they're undertaking. And with the cut-off and everything that happens in between them, particularly with the pacing as well, I had to make it... It's hard to put into words, with the loneliness that was coming from the vineyards to now this full-on professional military experience. I call it professional military. People who are, servicemen or servicewomen will probably read this and be like, none of that's right. But the benefit of me writing post-apocalyptic is that I can essentially make my own rules. Instead of it being like it's an official mission by the Navy SEALs, for example, or, Spetsnaz, Royal Legion, did I say Royal Legion? Yeah, French Royal Legion. Foreign Legion, whatever. It's not one of their specific missions. It's a collaboration of all these European forces. So I can essentially make up or saying, well, I'll take that element from there, take that element from there. And I've made it work for me as well. I'm dying. I've also got to mention that I am ill as well. And I've also not had a perm. It was just raining when I walked home. Sober Daniel, have fun editing this. Sober Daniel, have fun editing this. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, even with Ryan not being really in part 2. He features for maybe a paragraph or two with something else that happens, but he's not really there. And a lot of my beta readers actually pointed out that they missed not having Ryan there, which I think is going to fuel the loneliness just that little bit more. And eventually when part 2 ends and it switches back to the vineyard, Ryan is now finding himself, or at least finding himself forced to become that person that he has been putting off, the person that he considers himself that got Sam and Dot killed. And it's done in, it wasn't as brutal as with when he killed Ben, because I went quite into detail into that, because it was, you know, a saw over the eyes and a wooden mallet, you know, crack, crack, crack. And it was 4 specific cracks, and I detailed each specific crack. With this and what he does, I've kind of done what Jaws does, you know, I've left it up to your imagination of how it looks and how it feels. But the feeling inside Ryan, as each time he finds himself getting worse and worse and worse, is what's going to catch people off guard, because I think a lot of people are capable of doing horrible things, even the good people themselves. I will go out my way to hurt people who hurts a loved one, and a lot of you are the same, even the nicest of you. If someone harms your child or a loved one, you will be capable of more evil things than you know. But Ryan has taken it to this next level, and it's going to probably shock a lot of people, specifically in the political correctness department. Let's just say no one's safe. Let's just say no one's safe. But yeah, how Insidious Valour feels and just sort of how I can see it is so much different to the first 2 books. This has been a challenge in itself, because this is the first time I've written a book whilst I have full-time work. But now that I've found my new writing pattern, I have a new understanding for my characters, because I spend a bit more time away from them than I normally would, and tend to write bigger parts in bigger chunks, which some people might not be as productive as enough, but or as efficient in understanding your characters. But it works for me really well, just getting that time away from them, especially when it comes back to the rewrites, because then I get to see the inconsistencies between when I had that sort of writing spell and that writing spell. But it irons it out so much, and everything that I've read back I've been really, really happy with. It's a whole unique feel of how it switches up from the loneliness of the first part to the second part, which is, you know, highly more militarized but conspiratorial as well. That part's going to hit people. I don't believe what I've written at all. It's just something that I made up in my head, but I think that's going to hit home, especially with how, you know, the world is. And back again with part 3, because it's probably going to be a relief getting back to Ryan. But how can I word this? The reader, after part 2, knowing what the reader knows, to knowing that Ryan doesn't know it, is, I'm loving it. I'm really happy about it. You know, I'm going to fucking drink to myself to that one. When I said this could have been on the Writing Things playlist, obviously I wouldn't have done it drunk, because I am mumbling, but I'm someone who, I prefer great characters and a semi-good plot to a brilliant plot but semi-good characters. I'm much more of a character-driven person. I think, I'm not entirely sure what it is. I'm kind of like that in the world itself, even though I am an extroverted introvert. I don't even know if that's a real thing. I know a lot of people say that on social media, but that's generally how I am. But when it comes to characters, specifically with Ryan's journey in The Taste Beneath alone, I was more than happy with. And then with his second journey from, you know, all the way through Disease Intentions, again, I was over the moon with. But now that it's come to fruition, and his journey is not just what happens to him in Insidious Valour, it's this whole build-up of the first 2 books of a character I've been calling Blood Ryan. And there's going to be another reason for that. It's not just the decisions he makes, it's going to be everything about him. And it's going to catch a lot of people off guard, because I've not mentioned the changes itself. That's actually going to happen when, or you'll see that when I drop the first either snippet or the trailer for Insidious Valour. Great character arcs or great character development is something that intrigues me a hell of a lot. One of my favourites of all time is in the TV show Vikings, with a character called Floki. For all of you who haven't seen Vikings, it's an incredible TV show. Just watch it. It's, oh my god, it's absolutely amazing. Floki starts off as what you would consider to be your standard sort of medieval Viking, you know, incredibly anti-Christian, you know, brutal, thuggish. You know, he kills a priest who is best friends with his actual Viking best friend. A bit of a best friend triangle going on there, but just so full of just blood and rage and his love for the Nordic gods. You know, he's always talking about, you know, when they pass or when they die, you know, they'll be feasting with Odin and all of that kind of stuff. But over the course of his journey, and when he eventually emigrates, I don't even know if that's the correct term, but when he finds his way to Iceland or eventually Greenland, you know, the peace that he was looking for is taken from him. And one of the last things you say, you can, because he's trying to find his happiness the whole time, eventually trying to move away from that bloody person that he was. One of the last things he says in his sort of, I call like Viking Floki moment, is quite a harsh thing to say. He says it to a character called Flatnose, and it involves Flatnose's son. And then he disappears after that. And then in the context of the storyline, many decades later, his old best friend, one of his son, my fucking hood's falling off. One of his sons actually finds him in America, and you can just see he's this at peace person. And it's kind of beautiful because in that first season, he was just a bloody hellhound. You know, it's not forced. It's just this gradual path to try and just find peace in what was a blood-filled, you know, existence. Of course, any of you who knows Vikings history will know what they were and what they were capable of. And he just wanted away from all that. And the fact that he doesn't rush it or force it is one of my favourite things to watch as well. Another character journey would be Luke Skywalker from the original Star Wars trilogy, obviously, because I'm not going to mention what happened to him in the sequel trilogy. But, oh, fucking hell, I'm drunk. But, you know, even all the way through the course of it, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, his second movie, you know, he goes in there hot-headed thinking he's better than he is, and he ends up losing, not just losing his arm, and quite possibly one of the most famous movie quotes of all time. But at the end of the third movie, when he comes back more determined, he's not determined to beat Darth Vader or his father, he's determined to turn him back. And the only way he can beat Darth Vader is when Darth Vader eggs him on, because Darth Vader wants him to join the dark side. And even though Luke manages to disarm him and eventually chop his arm off, it's kind of a win for Darth Vader. But for Luke to pull back at that moment and realise just how far he was going, maybe following his own father's footsteps, that was when Star Wars used to be good. That was when Star Wars used to be good. Those are just two examples I could give of some of my favourite characters of all time, but going back to Insidious Valour, there has been more character development across the board. I've had a lot more time to play with Harper and Rook, and that's been fun as well, just spending a bit more time with them. I know everyone loves Drinker because he is the comedy element, but it's been coming for a while now, and as much as we have seen Cassie grow and become this amazing mother figure, even though she was at the taste beneath, with Maisie not being her birth daughter, you know, she is stepping up hard. She is stepping up hard, because where sometimes Ryan might be missing the point or not feeling himself during his own change, she's having to step up and just fill his shoes. She's not forcing herself. She's not saying, notice me. She's not saying, I'm a woman, I can do this. She is doing what needs to be done. And I've had a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of fun with it because, you know, not a lot of people have seen Cassie swear or do bad things, but she's kind of forced into that. And yeah, Cassie's development, I know a lot for the female readers. I know I've got female characters in there. You know, some people like Jen more, some people like Steph more, but, you know, some people absolutely love Maisie. You know, even Maisie I've had to change around a bit, because it would have been cliche for me to have that strong sort of smart daughter, even though Maisie is amazing. You know, the one that's always giving the good advice, kind of like in the movie Man on Fire, which is another great character development. But you know, with Man on Fire, Denzel Washington, you know, he was an Marine, or I don't even know what he was, but you know, he did bad things. He was in the military, he did bad things, and he goes from being a borderline alcoholic, or he was an alcoholic, to being this bodyguard for this young girl, and eventually giving his life for her, because how much of she saved his life, so he gave his life. I'm not sure how that works. Anyway, the point is that, you know, I've actually done some different things with Maisie as well. Instead of just making her that chirpy, you know, she's 7 years old now, and she's seen some shit, and there is going to be no 7-year-old who sees the things that she's done saying, yeah, I want to go outside and play ball. So yeah, Maisie's had a lot of good stuff, but I know Cassie's role and Cassie's plotline is going to, I don't want to say impress, that's the wrong word, but I know a lot of people are going to be happy with it, to see her step up and take actions into her own hands. That's been a lot of fun. And what Insidious Valour is building to is book 4, which I have not named yet. Oh, I have named it, I'm not announcing it. I actually named book 4 before I named Insidious Valour, because I know what's coming, and particularly before what book 4 builds on into book 5 of this series. And the way I've got to end it now is, Disease Intentions wasn't really a cliffhanger, but some people have said it is, and you know what, fair enough. I guess it's just how you read it, but this one is not going to be a cliffhanger itself, because it's not, there's no mystery to it. The statement is going to be there at the end saying, this is what is happening, this is how it's going to be dealt with, this is what is coming in book 4, the end. But I've got to go through all the rewrites and the edits first, but and eventually talk to my artist Dean about the cover again, which is going to take a full-on, it's going to be the same concept as the first 2, but that original idea we had for all 5 book covers has changed, and it's going to stand out massively to the different 2, because I think this is the book that is going to stand out the most out of all of them. Book 4 itself will be, oh, I can't say it. Yeah, I'm getting too far ahead of myself. In terms of Insidious Valour itself, my writing style really hasn't changed. I've switched up a lot between the first book and the second book in terms of perspectives, and I've also done the same with the third. Each book has its own sort of unique feel, but I don't want them to be a full-on standalone, even though you could read them as a standalone. This is supposed to be part of a series, but each one has its own unique style. I realised I've not been looking at the camera this much, because I know if I focus on that fucking lens too much, I'm going to go cross-eyed. But yeah, I'm having a few beers tonight, because yeah, I'm really happy with how this has come out. I start my rewrites on Thursday, and I've actually got a week to get them to my beta readers by then. I might ask them for a bit more time, but for any of you who want to see what an author's life is like behind the scenes, this is kind of it. And when it comes to the Writing Things playlist and the Beyond Fiction, I have to write a script itself, because I need the information to be accurate, but also the way to get it out there across. But in terms of any of you who have ever spoken to me, this is generally how I am, especially when I've got a couple of beers in me. If there was one thing to go in the Writing Things playlist that I'm about to say now, is be prepared for just how lonely it can be, because I don't know many people who can write with someone next to them, or someone watching something that you're not interested in. So for any of you who don't know, when I'm writing, I have a podcast on YouTube in the background. It's one of the many podcasts or live streams I've watched many a times. So it's just enough for me to have this outlet, but not enough for me to join in. But if someone is watching something that I'm not interested in, it is fucking distracting. So yeah, you have to be alone. And if I had to give any writing advice, drunk writing advice now, particularly now that I'm on book 3, make your characters your forefront and their stories vital as well. Make sure your character learns and grows, but don't make it predictable. Don't make it predictable. If you're going to subvert, I did a video about subversion. I can't be bothered to talk about that now. You know, subvert if you have to, but, you know, do it for the benefit of your reader, not for yourself. Don't subvert or try and shock for the sake of shock. You know, everything will fall into place when it has to, and that's what's happened with me with Insidious Valour. The timing is right for Blood Rhine to come out. And as much as it is brutal, I know a lot of my readers and fans are going to cheer when they see that first moment. But yeah, this has been a drunk video from me. I will be going back to scripted stuff soon. It's just that my rota changed a bit heavily this week, last minute. So yeah, I thought, why not? I'll do something different. But yeah, this has been a drunk video from me. As I said at the beginning, my first 2 books, A Taste Beneath and Diseased Intentions, are both on sale on Amazon. So if you want one for yourself or a Christmas present for a loved one, you know what to do. If you enjoyed watching me get battered and talking absolute nonsense, then please leave a cheeky like. If you, for some reason, are new here, please subscribe. I don't know why the fuck you'd do that now. I promise I'm not always like this. But yeah, this has been your boy Penbrook's Own, and I'm going to celebrate book 3 a lot. I don't know if I've advertised it as well as I should have here, but let's just say I was so happy and proud with my first two, but my fucking hamster just scared the shit out of me. I was so happy and proud of my first two books, but this book is just an absolute monster of its own, and I can't wait to get it out to you. So, as always, much love, take care, peace.